What have you selected for us today, Sue, from the pub there?
Well, I have a friend that was going off to Germany to look at all the Christmas markets, so I thought, why not have a classic German beer, an Augustiner Helles, which is one of my favourites. So, yeah, pick one of those up if you're at a German market.
Aren't all the German Christmas fairs here?
A lot of them are, yeah.
Okay.
Lovely.
All right, very good. That's a German festive beer is our seasonal suggestion. Here comes today's seasonal tale, which comes from Dicky. Dicky, thank you very much indeed. I think Matt will like this. I'm not sure about Susie, though.
Oh, good.
Silent and Collective. This confession happened back in 2006. I was employed to be Santa in the local garden centre. My contract went from Remembrance Sunday until Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Imagine it's the middle of November.
Yeah.
Who wants to see Santa then? Anyway, that's what Dicky is saying. This was an interesting job as I was local and I saw lots of people who I knew or worked with previously. I had help from a young 17-year-old from the garden centre who had broken his arm, and they thought this was a good role for him to be my helping elf. I don't think he quite saw it like that. But he put up with this mediocre role, just about. I soon made him feel at ease, though, because I wasn't taking the role completely seriously myself. I did, however, have a magnificent costume, appropriate padding, and a fabulous beard.
Good.
So, we're all set.
Nice.
One of the visitors to my grotto was my previous boss, who'd brought her grandson. And I wittily asked the grandson if he'd brought his great-great-grandmother with him. I had given the elf helper a heads up that I knew who this person was. She hadn't recognised me, which was great. The elf was giggling in the background, and I asked him again about his great-great-great-grandmother, who was looking so old. Grandson looked blank. Not very intelligent, I think, but my old boss was fuming.
Wow.
To make instant judgment. However, this isn't why I'm confessing, says Dicky. Later in the day, as I returned from my lunch, I walked past a child, around 4 years old, in the queue waiting to come and see me in my grotto. I was dressed as Santa, and she seemed very happy to see me, and she came up and spoke. "Hello, Santa," she trilled. "Hello, angelic child," I replied caustically. Mm-hmm. She wanted to see the grotto now, but I explained that I was just having my lunch and that the grotto would be open again in a few minutes. Her mum was very insistent that I spoke to her little darling. I believe the little darling was called Tabitha or something like that. Tabs then said, "What does Santa have for lunch?" And I thought for a second. Mm-hmm. I couldn't say a packet of salt and vinegar crisps and half a Guinness, which was the truth.
Wow.
So instead I said, "Well, actually, Santa's lunch today was Rudolph." I explained that obviously in the North Pole there isn't much meat available, so sometimes you just have to take what's there.
Oh, dear.
However, in explaining this, I noticed her young face was beginning to work out what I had actually said, and I wished her a Merry Christmas and quickly moved back into my grotto. As I walked off, I heard the crying begin. Tabitha's mum was explaining that Santa didn't really eat Rudolph, and to please stop crying. I have to admit that she was now quite a bit upset as the penny dropped that Santa, when up against it, ate his reindeer. I heard her wailing, "But why, oh why does Santa need to eat Rudolph? That's so unfair." The howls faded slowly as Tabs and her mum walked to the doors. Other customers wondered what was going on. Santa just waved and nodded as though the poor child was overcome by the occasion. Sweet child. I need to ask for forgiveness, obviously, not from the mother, but young Tabs, who grew up thinking that Santa was, if the circumstances were right, was quite capable of eating the reindeer who drove his sleigh. What a callous man. He'd eaten Rudolph. It can't be long before Blitz and Dash, Donna and Tinky Winky were next.
What?
I don't think.
No.
I think you've confused there. Anyway, the sound of Tabitha's crying has stayed with me.
Wow.
All these years.
That got dark very quickly.
Yes, it did, didn't it? Well, I wanted the angelic choir here.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's a shocker. Really. Sister Susie, I think we need to hear from you first.
Dicky, I am shaking my head at you. I can't believe, I couldn't, it really did make me laugh, however, that poor child would have been scarred for life. And you can't say things like that because they believe you and they take it for real. And she's going to think that Santa ate all the reindeers and probably tell all her friends and scare all of them as well. And, it's just disaster. That poor child probably didn't like Christmas for the rest of their lives.
That could well be true.
But I can't forgive you because it's just as funny as it is. It's just mean.
We should say, obviously, this wasn't the real Santa. This is just Dicky who's pretending to be Santa.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Well, even more so.
Yeah.
Shouldn't put words in Santa's mouth.
Exactly. So it's a crime against Santa.
Oh,
yes.
dear.
Really.
Not forgiven.
Anyway, get out of that. Brother from another gutter.
Well, I'm going to forgive, and here are the reasons why.
Of course you are.
Number one, it's hilarious, and frankly, that should be enough. But number two, I'm pretty sure that Tabitha realised that it was all a metaphor. Really, it was just a metaphor. It wasn't really eating Rudolph. It was all a hilarious metaphor.
Well,
and
a
also
metaphor for what?
A metaphor
For
for very much the circle of life. That's what it was a metaphor there. Tabitha grasped that. I'm pretty confident she would have worked there. She sounded very bright with her pushy parent. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.